Salut, Alexandra.
Hello.
Hello. Închide microfonul.
Hello to everyone. Nice to see you again. Very big pleasure to meet again our huge community of attendees, participants, organizers, everyone who is interested with the transdisciplinary methods, activities, and realizations. I'm very grateful to all the organizers and the presents, and I would like to share our best wishes for this new year. We hope it to be happy, to be full of engagements, of realizations, and of happiness. So my role today is to introduce my friend Cristian Ungureanu, who was a big coordinator of these sessions devoted to arts and transdisciplinarity. He made a wonderful work in order we have two beautiful conferences today and Friday. And let me introduce, please, Cristian. He was born in 1972 in Romania. After studying at the former George Enescu Academy of Arts in Iași, he settles in Italy, where he was several exhibitions in Bologna, Venice, and Verona. After 7 years, from 1986 to 2003, of artistic research and wandering, he returned to Romania and made his doctoral thesis called Dialogue between Sphere and Cube, the Secret Geometry of European Painting at the National Art University of Bucharest in 2010. Actually, Cristian Ungureanu is vice-rector and PhD Habilitate Associate Professor at George Enescu National University of Arts in Iași and became a PhD supervisor with the thesis Geometrical Composition in Visual Arts and its Transdisciplinary Values. He is full member of the International Center for Transdisciplinarity Research, Ciret, and a well-known artist. Cristian Ungureanu has published several books and art theory articles. He's the author of more than 30 personal and group exhibitions in Italy, France, Romania, Russia, and Turkey. According to the philosopher Basarab Nicolescu, who wrote, Cristian Ungureanu seems to be the successor of Mattila Ghica, 1881-1965, the specialist in the golden ratio and synthesis between mathematics and poetry. He also masters the instruments of art in the electronic age. This was wrote in the introduction to the Romanian edition of the book The Golden Number by Mattila Ghica, Nemira Publishing House, Bucharest, 2016. So, Cristian, we are very happy to be here, thankful to your action, and I saw what you did prepare for tomorrow and Friday, and I'm very impatient that you introduce and you present the work you've done with all your invited people. Thanks again. We are listening carefully from you now.
Thank you, Florent. Can you hear me? I have sound. Yes, okay. Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say, good morning in Mexico, good evening in Europe. It's the first time in my life when I have to say in the same time this paradoxal hello to many peoples, but we have this joy, this special possibility of a digital age we live to communicate in a huge distance with many people, and despite the strange time we live, we can continue our activities in this way, and we have to enjoy this evening and all the activities planned in the thematic poll entitled Transdisciplinary Aspects of Arts in the third International Congress of Transdisciplinarity, and which I had the honor to coordinate, and for that I have to say thanks to the organizer that for giving me this honor, and for moderating and inaugurating the series of conferences dedicated to this topic of arts, relation between arts and the other domain. And everybody knows that art is a fluid territory, and its role is maybe more than ever to put people together and to put ideas together and to put specialities and domains, the four important territories of knowledge of reality, which are science, philosophy, theology, and art. Definitely art is a territory of game. We are homo ludens, all of us, and of relation and of emotion, and we hope we will enjoy together this meeting of tonight, and we will wait for you also on Friday when we'll have the second session dedicated to arts and transdisciplinarity. I will start already my presentation, so I have to do share, I think, and with your permission, I'm making an experiment. For the first time, I was thinking to make this project for tonight in order to put text in Spanish and French in the right and left of the screen, and in the middle to put my images, which are a lot of images because my communication is fundamentally visual. And I have to ask you to allow me to read in English and to invite you to listen to me or to read in Spanish or French as you will prefer. And I hope to synchronize well my both hands to make a good relation between what I read and the 60-something slides I have to show you with my text. So allow me to make share screen and go to my beginning first slide, which is the poster of this evening. And I'm, as you see, the beginning, and then we will have another 3 artists and transdisciplinary researchers. And before starting, allowed me again to thanks to my fellow artists, professors, and transdisciplinary researchers who accepted the invitation to participate in the work of this Congress. Also to thank again to organizers from Mexico City. And of course, we will wait to meet together one day in Mexico City. So I will start. I start my research. The geometric and symbolic composition of European painting, it is fundamentally a transdisciplinary research subject in that it involves equally scientific, philosophical, theological, and of course, artistic valences. I started my research with the fact that the science and traditional art geometric composition is an ancient concern, with roots still visible in Sumerian and Egyptian and Greek antiquity, but also in the art and culture of other continents. So you can see one of the oldest, in fact, is the oldest subject that I have bas relief from Sumerian civilization. Now we can see it in a British Museum in London. It belongs to the territory of sacred geometry, one of the traditional science, along with alchemy, the royal art, astrology, sacred geography, sacred history, and so on. Sacred geometry gradually disappeared from the series of theoretical and practical concerns of European painters, sculptors, and architects, with the establishment in the middle of Italian Renaissance of the academic artistic education, which replaced the way of traditional teaching given by a master to his disciples in his workshop, a teaching that lasted for millennia and involved much more intimate and cordial communication. However, some geometric constructive practices have remained alive, even if the process of secularization induced by modernity has eliminated these concerns. It is worthy to notice that the same recurrent concern for structuring the composition architecture based on golden section, it is also encountered in ancient cultures from other continents, such as pagoda Yakushi-ji temple built in 680, which was defined as frozen music from its harmonic qualities. The Great Pyramid of Giza has the same proportion based on golden number, and Matila Gika, evoked here at the beginning by our friend Florent, state out this incredible construction of 5,000 years ago, that the actual civilization of humanity began with a masterpiece. The personality who brought this phenomenon back to Europe, to European art, I mean the sacred geometry and the sacred composition, geometrical, in the first part of the 20th century, is the Romanian Matila Ghica, the last descendant of Ghica voivodeship family from Moldavia, one of the historical provinces of Romania. Prince Matila Ghica, having the intellectual structure of the universal man from Renaissance, with equal attraction to scientific studies, but also to humanistic territories, published in Paris in 1931 the book The Golden Number, with an introduction signed by the poet Paul Valéry. Since then, this book has produced a constant fascination and influence on all arts, from architecture, visual arts, and music, to poetry, theater, or cinema. An exceptional episode of this influence of Matila Ghica's book is his collaboration with Salvador Dalí. Ghica and the famous surrealist painter met in 1947 in Los Angeles at a dinner. A series of working meetings followed at the artist's residence in Monterey, through which Matila Ghica gave Dalí the fundamental notions of this ancient science and art, constructive and symbolic, used by all great masters of European art, including Leonardo da Vinci. The book was published in Romanian for the first time in 2016 through the efforts of the French physicist of Romanian origin, Basarab Nicolescu, the theorist of transdisciplinarity and the hidden third. Member of the Romanian Academy and Doctor Honoris Causa of many universities, including the George Enescu National University of Arts in Iași, Basarab Nicolescu emphasized in the introduction of his edition the role of Matila Ghica's work in the rebirth of traditional geometric thinking in modern and contemporary art. From a scientific point of view, everything that exists, regardless the form of manifestation, is defined as energy. The concept of energy is understood and defined as vibration, a notion that is described by specific parameters, of frequency, since it indicates the rate of vibrational and oscillatory phenomena, such as mechanical vibration, audio signals, radio waves, and light. The frequency is expressed and transposed by numbers and their geometric projections. The harmonic geometric configuration in architecture, sculpture, painting, decorative arts, music, dance, or literature are determined by the special properties of numbers, which are considered as forces that act structurally on the manifested world at all levels, raw or subtle. The artwork has always been conceived during the history of civilizations as an energy configuration. This is the premise of the cultural archaeology approach that underlies my work of scientific research and artistic creation. The flower of numbers and the harmonic properties of special rectangles, the golden number, the Fibonacci series of numbers, and the squaring of the circle graphic constructions represent a geometric apparatus for fixing the frequencies of these vibratory structures that we use as skeletons of the future paintings, frescoes, bas-reliefs, and so on, which were capable of receiving and generating energy. From this transdisciplinary perspective regarding the artistic phenomenon, we evoke and share the theory of the Italian conceptual artist Gino de Dominicis, who stated in the 80s that an artwork is anti-entropic, and in this way contradicts the second principle of that an artwork once completed must surprise me and give me more energy than I did to get it done. The artwork then is anti-entropic, and in this way contradicts the second principle of thermodynamics. This is very interesting, and the idea who changed my consciousness in the 90s when I met this text. In fact, I didn't met him. He died in that year, but I met these ideas in the catalog of Biennale di Venezia 98. Everybody knows a lot of natural geometric patterns, from flower corollas to the mineral structures or the skeleton proportions of different animal species. Many animals and insects are building shelters and facilities based on geometric patterns, such as bees or ants. They shape mysterious design constructions looking like the stained glass rosettes from Gothic cathedrals, as Baraku fish does in the image here, does in the sand under the waters of Japanese sea. The reign of quantity, the age we live today, eliminated the essential data about the nature of numbers, and also the simple and immediate consciousness that all numbers, no matter how large they would become, are always reducible to their sources or roots, constantly grouped into the first 9 numbers of the mathematical alphabet, and that each number is reducible according to their own music to the main source represented and symbolized by number 1. The core of the constructive and symbolic doctrine identified through the studies I carried out in the arch of 20 years of artworks researchers in European traditional art highlighted the recurrent use of flexible and organic patterns derived from the regular polygonal constructive models corresponding to the numbers 1 to 12. The most recurrent, and that I called the flower of numbers. I get inspirations from the most popular and used flower of a number, the flower of number 6, known all around as the world as the flower of life. I'm curious if you in Mexico, do you have this expression, the flower of life, and the construction, the flower of life? We will speak at the end of my presentation. The flower of number 1. According to the traditional and numerological doctrines, 1 contains all other numbers. Circle and sphere are the geometric shapes which symbolize number 1. The center is the principle, and the circle or the surface of a sphere symbolize the creation. When we contemplate an important truth such as Creator's universal power, greatness, love, profound lights, or any divine attribute, we are all heeding to the supreme model for all things. All our faculties are suspended in order to entirely connect to Him. Here is the active image of the unity. And the number 1 represents for us the expression of this unity, or the indivisible union which intimately exists between all the attributes of this unity that should exist equally among them and all its creatures and achievements. It's a quote from Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin, French philosopher, about numbers from French Revolution time, Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin. To illustrate the defining features of geometric and compositional thinking specific to Western traditional art and the attributes of number 1, I chose to present the study of manuscript painting known under the title God as Geometer. God as meta-geometer should be more metaphysically precise, as Mr. Basarab Nicolescu suggests me in a dialogue about this image. The miniature is a cosmological representation from 12th century belonging to an anonymous Gothic French monk. This illustration of Old Testament creationist doctrinas starts from the premise that God creates the universe and its countless laws on the basis of some harmonic numerical ratios between different circles and the rectangular frame in which he is inscribed. Remarkable in this visual representation of the circular universe, which looks like a creationist theory of contemporary physics and astronomy. The first highlighted aspect in the process of identifying the geometric configuration of this image is the ratio 1.5 between the circle corresponding to the created world and the God's circular aura. The flower of number 2 has a diameter equal to half of its petals. So I have a bunch of flowers for you today, people. We are at number 2. So the flower of number 2 has a diameter equal to half of its petals and has the same inner division at 2. The number 2 symbolizes many of the basic dualities: me and you, male and female, yes or no, alive or dead, left and right, yin and yang, and so on. Dualities are common in human approaches to the world, definitely because of our preferences for two-valued logic. Yet another duality, true or false. The astronomical zodiac man from 1616, from the beginning of 17th century, of Limbourg brothers, some French painters, is a well-known illustration of this case. Flower of number 3 contains an equilateral triangle determined by the center of its petals. The symbolism of number 3 has to do with all kinds of triads, where the Holy Trinity of the Christian doctrine, is plays a special role, is the most complex type of triad from all traditions. This is also the case of Borromean rings in the right, a heraldic sign of a noble historical family in northern Italy from 7th century. Flower of number 4 is the first case where an extension of the petals is necessary, so that every corner of the square supporting the structure can enter into communication not only with the neighbors, the centers of the neighboring petals, but also with the diametrically opposed one. The number of order in universe is 4. The 4 elements of life: earth, air, fire, and water. The 4 seasons, the 4 points of the compass, the 4 phases of the moon, the 4 noble truths of Buddhism. To the Pythagoreans, 4 was the source of the tetractys, 1 added to 2, 3, and 4, which is 10. And 10 is 1 added to 0, which is 1 again. The perfect number. The flower of number 5 needs an extension of the petals, and it is a typology of structured compositional space very widely used through Europe and in all cultural epochs. The unitary symbolism attributed to number 5 of Pythagorean stamp is contradicted by Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin's numerological doctrine, whose interest is in this territory. I recommend to read the books of Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin. Absolutely fascinating. The sum of the first 11 and odd numbers, 2 and 3, is 5. To the Pythagoreans, 1 was not a number and was not odd. They discovered the 5 regular solids: tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron, now known as the Platonic solids. Flower of number 6 is the most common compositional formula in European art and is widely known as the flower of life. The flower I was telling you about at the beginning, which is absolutely spread all around the world. You can see it in China, in Turkey, maybe in Mexico and Central America and South America, in Asia. Everywhere is a very strange thing with the same title, the same name. It was the unique property. It has the unique property of equality between the flower circle and the 6 circles of the petals, which allow an unlimited extension. 2 additional circles of petals are needed to complete their resonance structure. By wonderful conjunction of mathematical coincidence, 6 is both the sum, 1 added to 2 and 3, and the product, 1 multiplied by 2 and multiplied by 3, of the first 3 numbers. It is therefore considered as perfect, a perfect number. The perfection of 6 shows up the 6 days of creation in Genesis, with God resting on the 7th day. The flower of number 7 is often considered as lucky, and it has a specific mystique, perhaps because it is a prime number, that it cannot be obtained by multiplying 2 smaller numbers together. The case study chosen for illustration is the Van Eyck brothers polyptych named The Adoration of the Mystic Lamb from 1432. Is one of the most complex compositional artworks, whose main visual engine is the flower of number 7 structure, considering the position and size of semicircles from the central panels of this polyptych. The circular and linear paths of this flower and the heptagon structure reflects in the lower part of the composition, making the border between our world and the transcendental one. The flower of number 8. Number 8 is generally considered to be also an auspicious number in all traditions in the world and symbolize the 8th day of creation, the celestial paradise. It is illustrated here by the same famous Ghent altarpiece. Even I have many other examples. The Adoration of the Mystic Lamb, where the proportion of the panels and of the main visual centers are organized through the extension of a homogeneous field of stable octagon, with a horizontal side equal to the diameter of the central panel arcade. Okay. The flower of number 9 is related to the particular symbolism regarding us, the people, to the particular symbolism of this number dedicated to human being. Not by accident, the ancient doctrine of Enneagram, updated by modern psychology in George Gurdjieff and Piotr Uspensky's writings, concerned the division into 9 types of dominant human personalities. Number 9, like number 3 and number 6, is a 3rd category number in which the numbers 4, 7, and 8 goes for the second category, and the unity marks the 1st category. The division into these categories belongs again to the philosopher Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin numerological doctrina. Rubliov's icon, the Holy Trinity, has obvious constructive correspondences with these all visual elements of the icon. The flower of number 10, the diameter of number 10 flower divided by the diameter of its petals is precisely the golden number. means 1.618. And its unique property has to be related to the other special attributes that defines it. Such as the fact that 10 is the sum of the first 4 number tetractys, as I said before, Pythagorean's subject of contemplation and veneration. The flower of number 12, and this is the end of my presentation for tonight, the text, I mean, because I will invite you to see something else. So the flower of number 12 is tributary to the symbolic eschatological sense in all great tradition of the world, but also in the traditions regarding the cyclicity of time, the number of hours in a day, months, and zodiacal signs in 1 year. In Christian doctrine, number 12 is related to numbers of Christ's apostles. Hoping that I catch your interest, even it is quite a specialized territory. I want to thank you for watching me, and before having maybe a conversation on base of what I was presenting, I invite to watch, because I think I am in time, telephone, for my hour I have at disposition. I wish to invite you to watch a video. If you ask maybe yourself watching my presentation, okay, what should be good, all this information for a visual artist, for a painter? And for that, I wish to stop sharing here now and to invite you to watch a video of my my last exhibition. I had 2 years ago, a year and a half, at the Museum of Art in my city, in Iași, an exhibition that I was itinerated in France, in Paris, at the French Cultural Center, and in Academia di Romania, with the participation, extraordinary participation of Mr. Basarab Nicolescu in Paris and in France. But here is a video from Palace of Culture in Iași, my city. City in Moldavia of Matilagica, the city where was born Matilagica practically. And this is a beautiful coincidence for the topic I'm presenting you tonight and this evening. And let me make share again for the video. Okay. And now I have to close this and okay, just a second. Share, okay, share screen. Do you see my screen now? No? Okay. Second. Share screen. It is going on. I don't know what is happening. It's a run error wrote me here. So you don't see my my screen now?
Yes, we see the screen.
You see the screen. Okay, good.
But it's empty.
Now you see?
Yes.
You see the video YouTube?
Yes, we see.
Okay, so I invite you to complete this presentation, to conclude this presentation and to illustrate this presentation with this video, which has also mathematic theory, what I present in my theoretical studies, and also mathematics in music, because the music is a piece, one of my favorite pieces from Johann Sebastian Bach. Please enjoy. Thank you very much for your
Hey,
attention.
what's up, you guys? I'm Danielle, and welcome back to DK Soul Art. So I have some
Thank you.
exciting news for you guys today. My website's finally live.
It's
I'm so
advertising.
excited. I worked so hard on this website, and I hope that you all enjoy it.
It has to be
The
that.
link will be in the description down below, so be sure
It's
to
from
go check
me.
it out.
Okay, excuse me.
And that's pretty much where I'm
Oh,
going to
excuse
be
me.
selling.
Okay. Okay. I quit the share. Good. Thank you very much. I thought it was from the site. These technical surprises are surprising us always. Okay. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for your attention. And if you want to make some comments or to put questions about the topic I present, you are welcome, please.
Hello, Christian. Well done. It was very interesting.
Hello, Galena.
Actually, I was very, very interested by these numbers, flowers, and I of course, I couldn't help thinking about the music intervals, actually. So I was wondering if you ever try to go in on that direction to make the link between the intervals, the musical intervals, and the flowers numbers, and just to, because I'm specialist of Middle Ages. Of course, all these images from the Middle Ages are really linked not only to, I mean, it's the same, you know, geometry and musical proportion. It's kind of completely linked at the Middle Ages, at least. And so just I wanted to know if you want to go in
Yes.
that direction.
Thank you for the question. And I'm glad to, and this is the joy of transdisciplinarity. In fact, we are interdisciplinary now because you are in music and I'm in visual. But of course, you are interested in visual, and maybe you have your experience in visual arts, and also I have my experience in music with the help of friends. So in fact, I have on YouTube, but I think it's too much to show now. Or okay, but I'll put the link on the Congress site, and if somebody will be interested. I arrived at music of number 7 in an experiment. I'll explain graphically, very easy. For number 7, I take a circle and I divide it. I make 7 small, starting from a unity, and then I get down with an array, each one, and becomes a chaos of circles then. But I choose only 3, and I obtain some nucleus of circles. But after 62 descendings with array of the bigger one of 7, like, because the small is unity, then 2 per 7, 3, so on, 7. Good. After 62 of this, all circles come together. They arrive at home, like they close. Professor Segedin, which has scientific specialization, it can explain us that is a series of numbers and has a function there, and we remember from school. So I am interested in that, and I was collaborating with a composer from Iași, and I have maybe time to show you 2 minutes of this. It was the beginning with the music of a Romanian, quite good, important musician of Romanian modern. Viorel Munteanu is his name, and I was working with him with that, because I put to every subdivision of 7, of 6 also, which are more simple, 5 more simple, 2 has only 2. Of course, descendings and comes back, but with 7 was so long, this one, and I put for each subdivision a note from the gamma of do, re, mi, so on, and also an instrument for each one, an electronic instrument. I didn't get persons, musicians to play for me only sounds, and it comes out an abstract music, but a very objective music, like. But if you allowed me a little, no, let's see if we have more question, and if rest time, I will share another piece of video with this story of my beginning in geometry 21 years ago in Italy.
Thank you very
much for your question. I'm very interested in the mathematics music also. And I think mathematics is everywhere. And I know a lot of people believe in that. I think it exists a mathematics of dreams, a mathematics of all cell movements, definitely that. But all type of manifestation, even very subtle, and mathematics of angels, if you want, or anywhere is action and reaction. Again, Mr. Professor Segedin from Polytechnic Iași University will say, yes, there is everywhere action and reaction in concordance.
Okay. I would like to say some words, if it's possible, Mr. Professor Ungureanu.
Please.
I was very impressed by Mr. Ungureanu presentation. I would like to congratulate him for this demonstration of mastery of art and science. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I was very impressed when I saw the main characteristic of mechanical vibrations, frequency, amplitude, energy, and so on. We are all overwhelmed by Mr. Ungureanu's huge cultural horizon. We are proud of his work, and his entire activity is well known. Thus, Mr. Ungureanu brought great services to his university, to the city of Iași, and to Romania. I am proud of his friendship, and I can't wait to finish other joint projects. If I were to say only a few words about Mr. Ungureanu, then I would say that he is the man who never said he doesn't have time. I think that Mr. Ungureanu is an engineer undercover. It's a great scientist and a great artist. Congratulations, Mr. Professor, Mr. Vice Rector, and la mulți ani.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll also be glad to follow the Professor Segedin, and first of all, at 7 o'clock in 9 minutes, to stay on schedule on our program, we will follow Sasha, Jérôme Kagan from Germany, and he will have a very interesting and transdisciplinary subject, and then we'll have Valeda Müller with her topic, and of course, after at the end of this round table will be Professor Segedin, also a very unusual engineer, and this is the beauty of transdisciplinary spirit inside of somebody, because he's a very cultural person. He's speaking to openings of exhibition and reading very strange books and heavy cultural books, and put these facts in relation, you will see, in relation with his field, the science and applied science, technology, and so on. But let's see if we have another question from the people who follow us, or comment, or please.
Yes, actually, we have, Christian, a lot of comments sending you congratulations and expressing how interesting your studies are, and especially asking you if you have something to add regarding this difference in systems with you know, the numbers. I sent you the question through the chat, no, in terms of how did they thought, no, from the Andes or from Mesoamerica, which is a region in Mexico and Central America, no, with all these systems, as also this thought of the sacred geometry, no?
Okay, I understand the question, a very beautiful question. Thanks to who launched it, who put it to me. And I think is not my idea. I have to say sincerely, this is the situation. When I get into this subject, it wasn't an event. I don't believe in casuality. I don't know, people maybe, some people believe, some people don't believe. I believed before, this sort of important experience that happens to my life. But since I start to read and to discover this kind of objects, I no more believe in casual, but I believe in, as I said, in action and reaction, and in mathematics of destiny and all these things. And is not very right at the time, this reaction. The equations are very complicated in time. So the studies I made, the books I read of metaphysicians and the traditional or modern, as René Guénon from France. I have a lot of French authors, but not only French, Eugène Bindel, Papus, a lot from France. Also some Romanian who are related with René Guénon de Français, but also ancient texts from India and Tibet and China and many ancient culture, India, of course, the Hindu and Sanskrit tradition, African, and you have also in Central and South America, in Mexico, particular, your ancient tradition with the same pyramid. So I get into the answer now. The same strange and huge and well, perfectly done pyramid with technology that we cannot explain today. So we used to think the modern and the contemporary, but the postmodern mind is opening. We know that. We used to think only for us, for our civilization, how hard we get our attributes and our technologies. But we are refusing. We don't know why. This is, but it is cleaning from the mind, people, this conception and materialism anyway. Everybody knows now because it is only energy inside, and energy is circulating and so on. So there were many other civilizations, the possibility of many other advanced civilization with very strange and powerful technology, different than ours. Maybe Professor Segedin again will attach this subject. There is possibility to make technology, to do things with different technology than we have, this mechanical and energetical technology, maybe not energy made with fuel, but with different energy, using our power or the ground power, the earth power, or the sky energy, like, you know, the Nikola Tesla energy and things like that. And this is the open of free thinking, which transdisciplinarity promote. I was telling to Mr. Basarab Nicolescu and to everybody, I was always transdisciplinary, but I was extremely happy to read the manifesto and to read the books, What is Reality, and so on, to see. It happens that people start to communicate and to put ideas together from different fields, because we are very specialized. So I'm going too far, but this is the idea. There is possibility of finding answer. We have to read. My answer is, we have to look for good books. Also, internet is a good fountain, and Wikipedia and so on, which celebrates 20 years, I don't know how many these days. It's also very good fountain of knowledge. But books are books, and strange books are difficult to find, and a good book gives you another good book. And the synthesis comes natural for a creative mind and a curious mind. And there is a rule there for who made the answer. Don't stop to a truth, to fix to a truth, and to fight for this truth. This is the truth, because you'll discover after 1 year that is maybe more different a little bit than you think before. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much for answering and for giving us more thoughts about it. And there's also other comments regarding the fact that there might be a possibility to open the study to this homogeneous idea of the numbers, no? And how, and you just mentioned it. You just mentioned these ideas coming from the minds, no? So then when it comes to something that it's homogeneous or universal, no? Then how can you match all these concepts from different cultures, from different places? So this is basically what all the comments are getting. We can merge all of them because there's many, and also they send you congratulations for your birthday today. So we're
Thank
glad to have you, and
beautiful
I
gift for me.
I can send you. I can go on with more and more, but this is basically what the concerns of everybody.
Yeah, if you allowed me 1 minute, 2 minutes, because we have to finish, and it's a beautiful possibility to go into this wild and maybe particular, not very scientific, not on the schedule of schools, like, but even in universities, in good university, people are studying now. You know that you can apply for any topic and you'll find bibliography and so on. The idea is to study, to have a passion, and it's a matter of working, of reading and watching and speaking with good people, also meeting good people and meeting good books, and being creative, being somehow courageous in some sense. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question here at the panel that you may want to ask? This is the moment. We're broadcasting and we're on live in different platforms, including YouTube. You can feel free to turn in any questions through chats or through these platforms so that we can send them directly to the participants.
If
So
somebody wants to see more of these researches of mine, it can go on my page, Cristian Ungureanu. You can see the poster on the site of, because the family name is complicated, is very Romanian. But you can find on YouTube my channel, and there I have a lot of videos and animations and even some translated stuff. And you can find a lot of clues, and also you can send me a message, and if somebody is interested, to get in touch with me. Sasha Kagan is here, is with us, you know, as I know, because I think we have as moderator, is my duty to stay in time, and we are on 7 o'clock in Romania, 19 o'clock, and it's 18 in France and Germany and Italy, and we should go to our to proceed for our next guest, which is Sasha from Sasha, if you let me introduce you now, and Florent, thank you for introducing me, for presenting me, but now I have to take my duty and to present the others. And again, I'm happy that you accept the invitation, and I'm sure we will have we'll continue a pleasant meeting, transdisciplinary meeting of ideas. And I have here the short CV, the short biography of Sasha. Kagan was born in 1980 in Périgueux, France. He studied, France for Google, for YouTube. He studied history at the Université Bordeaux, in France, political science at Sciences Po Bordeaux, cultural economics and cultural entrepreneurship, and sociology of the arts at Erasmus Universiteit Rotterdam in Netherlands. In 2011, he completed his PhD at Leuphana Universitat Lunenburg in Germany with a thesis on the subject art and unsustainability. He was a research associate at Leuphana Universitat Lunenburg from 2005 to 2018. From 2006 to 2016, he was the founding coordinator of the international network Cultura 21, Cultural Fieldworks for Sustainability. From 2015 to 2017, he was the coordinator of research network sociology of the arts at the European Sociological Association and a board member from 2011 to 2019. From 2015 to 2018, he was the leader of the research area Creative and Artistic Practice for Sustainable Urban Development, a very interesting topic, at the research consortium City as Space of Possibility. Stadt als, I cannot read correctly in German, but you will believe me. He received the Basarab Nicolescu Transdisciplinary Science and Engineering Award in 2018 from the Academy of Transdisciplinary Learning and Advanced Studies Atlas. Sasha Kagan intervened at over 130 events in 33 countries, authored of over 70 publications, directed 3 documentary films, and contributed in various roles to a dozen of art projects. He is currently habilitating at Leuphana Universitat Lüneburg. More info you can find on his site, writing his name on internet. Please, yes, Sasha, the microphone is yours.
Thank you very much, Cristian. First of all, thank you very much, Cristian Ungureanu, for organizing these sessions and inviting us. I want to thank very warmly Julieta Haidar and the organizers of the 3rd Transdisciplinarity Congress, and also for organizing this virtual format, which allows so many of us to meet in this way. This is really, really nice. And thanks again, Cristian, for a really fascinating and beautiful presentation, just the hour we just had before. So thanks a lot for that. Yes, so I will also share my screen and then get started with my own presentation. So just a second for the screen sharing. And start. Yes, I hope this is working now. I will also ask you, Cristian, just to, during the presentation, to also shut off your own microphone to make sure we don't have a microphone conflict.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yes, so I would like to share a few words about contributions of artistic process to transdisciplinarity, and introduce this notion of queering across levels of reality and within levels of reality. That's going to be the main point I want to discuss around. So I start with some things which are probably already known to many of you who are interested in transdisciplinarity and who are interested in the approaches to transdisciplinarity after Basarab Nicolescu. And indeed, his approach and the insights from Edgar Morin in complexity play a foundational role in my own explorations. So notions which are important here, I will not go in details because, as I said, I expect many of you to be aware of them, include this idea of a logic of contradiction between levels and across levels of reality, coming from Stéphane Lupascu, which was already mentioned by Cristian in the previous presentation. It also includes an effort to find a complex unity, which is both going beyond the simplification of reductionism and beyond the simplification of holism. And it also includes a constant effort both across levels and also within levels of reality, as I remember Edgar Morin in his own presentation for this Transdisciplinarity Congress a few weeks ago mentioned to also find paradoxes, to perceive contradictions, and what Morin called a generalized complexity, or one can also call it a qualitative complexity as complementary to a quantitative complexity. Across the fields we are researching. So the image you have on the slide with some relations such as unity, competition, complementarity, and antagonism. This is meant just to illustrate the one of the key elements, one of the key things in this approach, which is to never reduce any phenomenon, any thing we are researching to one key master relationship and to reduce it all to this one relationship, like for example reducing all social and economic relations to only a logic of competition, for example, as could be done in certain neoliberal discourses, for example. So always to keep the complex relations between different relations, or meta relations. So as I said, this was quite short because I want to explore then in more details my main suggested argument for today, which is this notion of queering across levels of reality. First, I want to, as pointed out by Bazara Nicolescu, look into this idea of working with contradictions across different levels of reality. And here, this is about how the artistic process can transcend a single level of reality and open-endedly explore the interactions of several levels of reality at once by innovating hybrids, by recompositing the levels of perception that Nicolescu also called the levels of reality of the subject in his more recent writings. This also means, as in this case following more Edgar Morin, perceiving the generalized complexity or qualitative complexity, working also with contradictions within a single level of reality. And this is about how the artistic process can allow this by learning through ambiguities, through ambivalences, and through paradoxes, working with paradoxes, without necessarily resolving them into clear and all too coherent insights. And this double process is a process that I call a queer one, or a process of queering, queer as a verb, because as opposed to, for example, a unitary holistic theory of everything, the artistic process helps transdisciplinary research to approach a complex uniplurality of the real by a constant questioning of normative closure. And we had an illustration of that a few minutes ago at the very end of Christian's presentation, who was just reminding us not to be fixed on certain truths. I think it was exactly an example of this constant questioning of normative closure. This relates to a notion I have been developing some years ago, that was in my PhD, the book you see on the slide, which is about aesthetics of complexity. And here there is one really nice image coming from Edgar Morin, from one of the volumes of La Méthode, of his book, series of books, Method, which I will just read in the English translation, which I think gives a good impression of his aesthetic sensibility to complexity. So, opening quote, "The system's sensibility will be like that of the musical ear, which perceives the competitions, symbioses, interferences, overlaps of themes in one same symphonic stream, where the brutal mind will only recognize one single theme surrounded by noise." End of quote. And this relates also to the ways, sorry, I have a problem with my mouse. Okay, now it's working again. Yes. To the ways in which aesthetics and ethics are related, the way in which aesthetics actually can ground ethics, and especially complex aesthetics can ground complex ethics. I won't have time to discuss this in detail, but in the Ethics of Edgar Morin, you can find some insights, and also in the Anthropology of Tim Ingold, really interesting insights on this. I have this one quote here, which I will use quickly. It's in French on the slide. I will now just quickly translate to English. The non-complex ethics, or moral, obeys a binary code with good and evil, just and unjust. A complex ethics conceives that good can contain an evil, evil may contain good, just contain unjust, unjust contain just. End of quote. Then I want to stress a tension which is which is quite strong nowadays, which I found again and again in my research, in my empirical research, which is a tension between two imaginaries, two social imaginaries of the real and of change, which are an imaginary of which is centered around planning and control, and this one is in tension with another imaginary, so to say, at the other extreme, which would be an imaginary of emergence and uncertainty. Within the imaginary of planning and control, the search that that societies nowadays across the world are doing for sustainable development perceives sustainable development as a kind of engineered or regimented roadmap to a better future. This means trying to develop the resilience of societies as a form of resistance and reconfiguration in front of adversities. In this kind of search process, within this imaginary, things have clear boundaries. There are clear boundaries and borders around things in this real. And this is also an approach in which there is this again is something I won't have time to explain in detail now, but I've been using that notion of cisdisciplinarity, which is not to oppose transdisciplinarity with disciplines or disciplinarity, which are essentially important, but with a certain attitude, a certain form of silo thinking, which is closing itself onto a discipline, which would be a cisdisciplinarity. So this is, in this case, a cisdisciplinary quality and a process where concepts are always kept clear with a very strong border keeping around concepts. So within such an imaginary, the complexity of the world is a manageable complexity, and a complexity to be managed, choreographed with, of course, complex approaches such as cybernetics. However, I perceive in it a fear of generalized complexity and of unpredictability. Then within this other imaginary, the one of emergence and uncertainty, sustainable development or sustainability is imagined as a generative journey of discovery of desirable futures. Here, building up the resilience of societies is more about gracefully letting go and about exploring different possible futures, different utopias, one might say, or complex utopias. It is an imaginary, a social worldview within which actually things have blurred boundaries and borders, not as clear as in the first imaginary I'm discussing. This is also an approach in which research has to deal with and grapple with a transdisciplinary complexity and meshworks. So meshwork is a concept that comes from Tim Ingold, meta-conceptual meshworks even, without these clarity, this clear concept that exists within a cisdisciplinary imaginary. So finally, this imaginary, this social imaginary, is one within which there is more of an embrace for this generalized complexity that we hear about from Morin, I think, and of this qualitative complexity. And it is an approach that is inviting us to dance with uncertainty. It is not a choreographed dance, it's more an improvised dance, if you want to keep the movement and dance metaphor. Here, there is also a fear, and this fear is a fear of normative reductionisms. I believe that the artistic process is an interesting way to explore this tension between the two imaginaries, and that the artistic process can have an especially number of good capacities to work especially with the imaginary of emergence and uncertainty, as I will try to say in a few words, more words in the next minutes. art that deals with research can be understood in many ways. And I mentioned here two of them, which in recent years have been quite much discussed. One of them is artistic research. If I may, I have the impression, for example, that what Cristian presented earlier was a prime example of artistic research. So in artistic research, artists are researchers and engage in the inter and transdisciplinary research exchange. For example, another example could be walking artists who work as phenomenologists. Next to this is also nowadays more and more growing is arts-based research. So this is an approach to research within which there is an integration of arts-based elements within scientific empirical research, and often this is the case within social sciences, social scientific research. So in short, this is about different academics, different researchers learning and integrating artistic and arts-based elements in their own research without being, so to say, artists to begin with. Even though, of course, well, one could argue that every human being is an artist. That's a discussion with Joseph Beuys, but that is yet, let's say, an additional point. And then also especially interesting is when artistic research, so this research coming from artists, is coming together, is combined with a very a form of intervention in society which is oriented to social change, which in some earlier writings and research I called an entrepreneurship in conventions. This means an approach in which the artist working with different people is actually questioning norms, questioning social conventions, and not only questioning, but raising suspicion about the validity of an existing, of a functioning social convention, and inviting participants instead to try out and maybe to be convinced by alternative social conventions. This is one thing I called an entrepreneurship in conventions, which is a possible engine of social change. And when this comes together with artistic research, come out a number of really interesting approaches within contemporary art, such as intervention art, embedded art, or ecological art. I will mention a bit more in detail ecological art a bit later. Then looking in more details into some qualities of the artistic process in artistic research and in arts-based research, I want to point to a few of them shortly. One quality of these artistic processes is to reach for a fuller scope of human understanding beyond cisdisciplinary attitudes in research, which can contribute to a transdisciplinary hermeneutics, as it was discussed by Nicolescu, also by Hans Dillemann, and by others. This is done by articulating together cognitive knowing, embodied knowing, and enacted knowing. Artistic research and arts-based research also seek and explore the qualitative complexity of questions as new ways of asking questions and uncovering new questions to be asked. They do not seek to necessarily produce clear answers and immediate solutions, but instead to make questions more interesting. They engage into what the ecological artist David Haley called a question-based learning rather than a problem-based learning, which is a different mode of approaching transdisciplinary research, because there is also a long tradition, which is also interesting, but different, of problem-based learning in some other forms of transdisciplinary research. Artistic research and art-based research also attend to complex and subtle interactions. They seek multiple perspectives and attention, and what they reach is not necessarily often not a universal knowledge, but rather a number of situated knowledges from specific vantage points, as it was discussed, for example, by Donna Haraway back in the 1990s. There is a number of qualities within art as research which relate back to this notion of aesthetics of complexity, which I mentioned before and on which I've been working some time. Among them are a quality to draw a creative tension between complexity and simplicity. One of the qualities is to explore from the unknown, which is a capacity which is often not really present in other forms of research, or not as much possible. One of the qualities is to articulate constellations of possible meanings through imaginative and at the same time phenomenological investigations. Another quality is to allow a form of integrated and at the same time diverse learning. It also opens up to an epistemological pluralism. And one thing, and I guess this is something that many people felt when engaging with artistic process, is the possibility to add existential human depth to research, which is again apart maybe from philosophy and some other fields, which is in many fields, from many disciplinary perspectives and approaches, difficult to include in the research, the existential questions. Artistic process also allows a strong empathic participation, a vicarious participation. I mean, for example, when we work with works of fiction, thinking about all the fictional aspects of artistic process. It also highlights the multidimensional subjectivity of a knowing self. Artistic process can also sometimes reflect, or even often reflect, political and epistemic contexts. And finally, and I will say a bit more about that in the next slides also, it can queer perception, affect, and thought through challenging ethical experience that is also, as I mentioned earlier, aesthetic experience is also a pre-ethical experience. Queer perception, making perception strange, making perception weird. That is what I mean to say it with another word. Let me give some examples. I mentioned earlier shortly ecological art. This is one of the approaches to art in contemporary art which I've been researching in recent years. And one of the interesting things that can happen in ecological art can be to create spaces which are shared spaces, not only for humans, but for humans and other species. One example of an artist who has been developing that, for example, was Lynn Hull, with the creation of trans-species artworks, which are artistic processes where, to say it short, Lynn Hull was saying, my clients are, well, for example, in one of the pictures you see here, the clients were certain species of raptor birds, so the birds. In other works, such as the monkey bridge you see between the two trees at the bottom, the main clients were the monkeys. And the indigenous communities and the scientists with whom she was working were collaborators, but the actual clients were the monkeys, not necessarily only the human beings, or at least not only the human beings. So this trans-species art was an example of really trying to create a community of practice between the artist, the local communities, the academic researchers in a transdisciplinary process, and other species which were invited to use those works. Another example is the notion and the practice and the movement even of ecosexual research and ecosexuality, which was developed by the very interesting and provocative two artists, Annie Sprinkle and Beth Stevens, which, if you look for it on internet, meanwhile became a quite wide movement beyond the work of these two artists, and which have to do with an erotic relationship with the different dimensions of the natural world. This also can relate to notions about the erotics of a relation to life, which were also developed, for example, in more recent years among others by a German philosopher and biologist, Andreas Weber, for example. Another really interesting and fascinating quality one can find in the process, in the artistic process in ecological art, is the capacity to navigate across multiple scales. And here I want to take as an example the many decades of work by the artist duo, Helen and Newton Harrison. And I invite you to look for their work online. There's books and publications about them. I really invite you to look. It's really fascinating. And their work is an example of really navigating across several scales at the same time, navigating across scales of ecological relations, ecological realities, from the local to the global. Here on the picture, you see a specific mountain with species traveling with climate change up a mountain, with the global warming. You also see the island of UK, of Great Britain, with sea rise. You see the peninsula Europe, the whole of Europe as an ensemble. And there's also global scale in some other parts of their work, not in this specific image, but it is there. It also is balancing the ego and the eco, so egocentric and ecocentric, self-oriented, other-oriented. It balances individuals, communities, and it even can balance sometimes the relationships between everyday realities, the realities of river systems, for example, the ecosystemic realities of entire regions, like in this case, Peninsula Europe on the photo, and even spiritual levels of realities in some cases. So this is an exploration of the fabric of life's complexity, which is very much about relinquishing control, about accepting that one cannot completely control the processes. And this is also something illustrated within the work of those two artists, how they balance between the wish to gain control and the humility to accept that one has to relinquish control. It's a constant balance and tension in their work. Then there would be also musical practices. I will jump that because I think of time. It would just take too much time to look into it. But in music, as in several art forms, one can find, I think we already had some discussion of music in the previous hour, thanks to Christian, so that would connect to that, and also to the fact that artistic processes can very much work one way or the other. They can also work to numb, to manipulate, to suffocate judgment, to orient identities, to make us believe in fixed truths. So exactly the opposite of everything we've been discussing so far. So of course, the forces can work one way or the other. They can work towards an aesthetic of complexity, but they can also work in more nefarious ways. That's, I think, the main message I wanted to have here. And the final point is the question of this queer and queering. To come back to that last point, why did I want to focus on that? So queer as a verb, what does a queering process do with the artistic process, with art as a verb? And what I want to argue here is that it helps art to perceive the real as fluid, as unstable and in perpetual becoming, while at the same time perceiving the norms that frame the real. So perceiving both the norms and the fluidity. To affirm the multiplicity and the fluidity of subjects, seeking to challenge the processes that normalize and format practices, relationships, and subjectivities, to question established meanings and the power relations to which they are related, to also invent willfully eccentric modes of being, dissolving the patterns and the trajectories of dominant norms, and even, and here I am quoting Kathin Jesse, who is both known as a feminist, an ecological artist and curator, and a somatic sex educator, among other things. And she's living in the Vancouver region. So to practice radical, so quoting her, to practice radical disharmony, in this case, with various sides of oppression, whether they are gender, morality, the patriarchal nuclear family, the prevalent culture of nature in contemporary society, or white racial supremacy. End of quote. And this relates, and that's really the very end now, to, I think, at least in terms of my current explorations, to seeking an art of living together on this earth as a queering artistic process, which means one in which we unsettle certain certainties of good lives, we seek possible other lives, we stimulate denormalizing and denaturalizing aesthetic experiences. And this allows us to take us to other desires and maybe to find sustainable futures, which also can exist beyond the currently dominant path dependencies, which are of multiple kinds. I won't have time to discuss this now, but one example could be Western consumerism, one example among many others, of course. Yes, thank you very much for listening. I will just stop sharing and open to the discussion. Stop sharing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sasha, Kagan, and we have the opportunity to ask if you have anyone in the panel. Please feel free to to use the voice right now, and afterwards I'll be reading you a couple of questions that we have from YouTube. So please, if you have any questions from the panel, go ahead. Otherwise, then I'm gonna ask you, I have, again, some congratulations for you. And Maria de Melo is asking you, and I'm gonna read them. Maybe you can start answering them while I read them, because otherwise it's gonna be a big list, no? So Maria is asking you, what about ontological knowing? Is it not a must for transdisciplinary processes? Can you go ahead and answer it, please?
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks a lot for this question. In terms of ontology, of course, I could go or argue many different things. One thing which I find interesting is there is this notion from, I think, from Brazil, from Eduardo de Viveiro Castro, this, you know, the relationship between methodological or epistemological pluralism on the one hand and ontological pluralism on the other hand, and being able to open up and to learn from plural ontologies. I think one of the examples he discussed, I'm really not a specialist, but could be the notion of not just of this differentiation we have between humans and non-humans, but to think of I forgot the name of the animal, but he's discussing how certain people see a certain animal as also as another human. You know, it's like a the notion of a human is much more extended. So the notion and the knowledge of ontology, I think, invites us in an artistic process to open up to ontological pluralism and to learning from those many different ontologies, I would say.
Thank you very much. And she's expressing that that's also a question that can be applied to other type of studies and other panelists. Now, if you want to answer it later, also. But well, I have another one right here. How can we redefine aesthetics from complexity and transdisciplinarity? And if we can integrate all these aesthetic productions out of the academy, out of what we conceive as the legitimate production from the artistic institutions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this question. I think two especially helpful approaches to understanding aesthetics in this sense is are coming actually from the United States in that case, and especially the pragmatist tradition of John Dewey, which of course goes back to the very old understanding of the term aesthetics, which has to do with sensory experience, so aesthetics as experience. And also especially, I think, to the understanding of aesthetics later by Gregory Bateson, which, by the way, could be a link to the previous presentation of exploring these geometries if you look into the work of Bateson, he was also looking very much into the fascination for the ways in which life forms recognize other life forms by being sensible to different symmetries, to different geometries, one could say, and to different patterns that connect. So this sensibility to the pattern that connect is what Bateson perceived as fundamentally aesthetic. And this is something which Bateson would argue is there for all of the life forms, or what Andreas Weber would call a kind of erotic attraction, or what some others from science call the biophilia. And this is already a kind of aesthetic sense which is beneath and beyond and across life, not just a human phenomenon. So that would be the kind of focus on aesthetics as experience that I would think is especially fruitful and interesting for transdisciplinary research.
Thanks again, and I think it's a very good explanation of like broadening the subject here. And there is another one, and if we can bring ourselves to accept that animals display artistic exploration and empathic rationality, and they need to be part of the conversation, no? So if you can answer that one too, please.
Yes, I would agree with the statement. I did not see a question, to be honest. I saw a statement and I would agree with that statement. But I didn't perceive a question in the formulation.
It is a question, since she's asking you if we can bring ourselves to accept that that quote, no, that statement that animals are displaying this artistic exploration, empathic rationality, and it's more like what's your opinion on that? Which
okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, looking at the work of different artists and people working with different artists across the world, from the few cases I'm aware of, I can think of cases where this is happening, definitely, and others where maybe it's not happening. But I think there's a big number of issues which are very complex to disentangle right now, so I wouldn't be able to all discuss it right now. But there's the question of anthropocentrism or non-anthropocentrism. There's different layers or aspects or dimensions of anthropocentrism. There's the question of anthropomorphy. So there's many different aspects, and there's many different, sometimes when looking at critical discussion, a mutual accusation, so to say, between different approaches. So it's a really, in French, we would say un problème épineux, a very thorny issue. So it's not something I can really, to which I can give one a simple answer for sure, or a quick answer now. It's yeah.
See, thank you. That's so true. No, then we may have to talk more about it. And there's another comment here wherein they say that arts in different levels of realities precises to be differentiated when we talk about transdisciplinary studies. That's just a comment that they wanted to share with you. This is the end of the questions from here. Well, more. Let me see if we can, in the field of artistic training, could the version of ENT, that's how they quote it, also be considered? And the last one, she's adding that just very few people are willing to see animals as equals, not just adding to the first statement about the animals. Please go ahead.
Yes. Yes, this is why I think these ontological questions, these questions of ontological pluralism, can really help to perceive our relations with non-humans, more than humans, inhumans. I mean, or animals, for example, because animals are one among others, in ways which might be more helpful. So that's why I think this connects back to the first question of rethinking our ontology. And the other one, so N3 is this entrepreneurship in conventions. I think this has to do with the question of how the societal engagements and the embeddedness in society, the transdisciplinary mandate beyond the art academy, beyond the art institution, is or is not part of the art education. And this is really an important question for art academies, how artists are trained. For example, I can give shortly one example which I found really exemplary in the past couple of decades. There was one, and this is just one example, but which I'm personally aware of, but there was this one group at the Haute École d'Art et de Design at the Geneva University of Art, HED, it's called. Within that, there was a unit called CCC, which was one of its, it had different names, but one of its title was Critical Curatorial Cyber Media. And so it sounds very fancy, but actually the art students there were really encouraged and trained and framed in a way to work together as a transdisciplinary team. And this also included people from many different disciplines and trying to develop really a transdisciplinary practice and not too much focus or presume that the art students, that the young artists would necessarily want to do independent individual work. Of course, individual work has value, but there was a lot of space to create transdisciplinary teamworks and to engage with all sorts of issues. And I think that was very, very helpful in that case. I'm sure there's many other interesting cases in multiple art schools, but these are places where and opportunities where this entrepreneurship in conventions can be trained within art academies, I think.
Thank you very much. We don't have any other questions through YouTube. I don't know if anyone here in the panel is eager to ask you anything. Otherwise, I think we can continue with the program. Christian, your microphone.
Excuse me, I was mute. Yeah, I wish to congratulate Sasha for the very provocative and very open and directions, and of course I see everybody see in the field of art. We have the experience of the 70s when it was a revolution of all this direction of developing, starting to burst by the way, and the collaboration between all these in the field of academies, it is possible, definitely, and the time we live and the future which comes oblige us, push us to open to all this form of understanding. But the basic culture of history in the transdisciplinary perspective is absolutely necessary. We cannot afford the future without knowing, we cannot watch very far without knowing the past very well and understanding what we have to do. You remind me, and I finish with that and we'll pass to the microphone to Valleda Müller. I'll present her first. A quote from Sufi mystic who says, help me God. For me, I receive on this way, I perceive on this way all your talks and ideas, and help me God to pass over the abyss between sincerity and hypocrisy in order to help you, to pray to you, pray in the way of meditation, of thinking, of getting solution, of living well, of being an artist in a very certain perspective, of being a good person for the future. Thank you very much, Sasha. You provoke us, and definitely we can continue on different possibilities, and through YouTube video will be there, and through the site of the Congress and so on, we can get in touch with the different person who want to ask us and to continue the dialogue. Now, let me introduce Valleda Müller. She got her art history PhD in 2009 at the University of Burgundy. Her dissertation, published at l'Art Matin, was about the representation of the human body on the liturgical furniture in the Great Duchy of Burgundy, under the dynasty of Valois until the Council of Trent. She then worked at the Index of Christian Art, Princeton University, classifying the collection of choralists, I hope I pronounce well, it's about singing, definitely choir, pictures of Elaine C. Block. In 2011, she's part of the ANR project Musicoins, about representation of sound, for which she worked on an indexation model integrating iconography, organology, and semiology. From 2013, she is a scholar at the Max Planck Institute in the art history branch at Florence. She worked on the representation of old age in the Tuscan painting in the Quattrocento. These researches have been published at the Cambridge University Press. From 2016, she developed a therapeutic method of meditation, contemplation of art pieces. She is the author of column Vivre l'art, Art and Transpersonal Psychology of the review Troisième Millénaire. I think I said well, third millennium. She teaches today fine arts, music, and especially therapeutic singing in Belgium and in France, while she continues her career as a professional musician, violinist, and opera singer. Please, Valeda.
Thank you very much, Christian. Good evening and good morning to all my colleagues. So I will share my screen. And let's see what art can do for you. All right, so arts in general, music, theater, dances, etc. included, are fundamental for human being. Even before we were modern human, I mean Homo sapiens sapiens, art existed. The oldest musical instrument has been found into a Neanderthal habitat, such as the oldest form of art. So on the screen, you see this is a piece of probably a flute. And this is a Venus, so probably a mother goddess. And here you have the kind of the caves, the surface is scratched. As early as prehistoric times, when human life was difficult and certainly mostly oriented towards survival, the first human beings still took the time to make musical instruments, to paint monumental frescoes on caves, to sculpt mother goddesses, with a degree of stylization tending towards the simplification of shapes, who was not equaled until the 20th century. Archaeologists discovered that painted caves, for example, were not technically living spaces. I mean, they were painted and then they were kind of visited. So art wasn't a kind of interior design. Jean-Claude, who is a very he's a specialist of prehistory and prehistorian art. He had a very interesting theory showing that art and music was probably a part of shamanism practices. So we just explain here. Actually, he thought that the artistic process was a part of ceremony. Probably the artists, maybe they took some plants to be in a different kind of state of mind and to be in a trance. And they made these paintings in the caves. And then in a second step, people were entering into these caves, probably took some plant as well, listened some kind of music for a shamanic ceremony, and they were watching these images that I project here, but again in a very specific kind of state of mind. I would say un état de conscience modifié, a modified state of consciousness. So then, during antiquity, Middle Ages, Renaissance, and so on, arts were developed tremendously in Western Europe, but also all around the world. We don't actually know one single human society living without a form of art. And art can be found kind of everywhere. In nomad societies, it can be expressed with tattoos, for example. Dance is also fundamental for some tribal societies, and it's even used to solve some political troubles in some tribu. However, this importance seems to be denied today. While concerts and art galleries are closed, I mean, in many countries in Europe and I guess in the US as well, because considered as not essential. During the first lockdown and now again, I was really astonished by the complete stop imposed on art in general and in music in particular. Even today, we still don't know when and how we will be returning to concert halls or museums. However, many initiatives have flourished on the internet in the world, both musical with groups of musicians and artistic or theatrical. A creative impulse in general has been felt. And these initiatives are not only shared among professional musicians or artists, they are shared by many people all around the world. And this is a proof that it's important for anybody, and we are all missing art. Apart from any economic considerations, it seems to me that art must be placed back at the center of human life because it is a fundamental need. The arts are not anecdotal. They are intrinsically linked to human life, so why shut them down? Make them something accessory and not essential. Why is the budget for war so high compared to the budget of culture? The neuroscience have proved what philosophers have been claimed since antiquity, that art and music do good psychologically, but also physically. Thus, a patient suffering from neurodegenerative disorders such as Alzheimer or Parkinson recreates neuronal connections by actively listening to music, which means by living in the present moment, beating the beat, singing, etc. So here you can see, I mean, it was kind of a buzz on Facebook and all over the internet, Marta Gonzalez. So she was in a very advanced stage of Alzheimer. And she just listened once, The Lake of Swan by Tchaikovsky, and she immediately started to dance, to recreate the exact movement. I mean, as much as she could, because she was more than 90 at this time. By listening in, and she forgot nearly everything, but by listening to the music, she was able to kind of dance again and to remember a choreography that she learned and practiced 40 years ago. On the left image here, you can see the red zones all over the brain. So basically the sound is entering by the ear and then it's spread all over the brain. And some Max Planck Institute studies, I think it's in Leipzig by Tanja Singer, she demonstrated that the plasticity of the brain is activated by music and by meditation. I mean, both separated or even combined, it's even better, I can imagine. But it's something very important because a couple years ago, still we were still thinking that plasticity of the brain, when it's lost, is lost, and actually it could be reactivated. So that's very good news. In 2018, to give another example, in the US, 6 Midwest correctional facilities performed in a New York production of Beethoven's opera Fidelio without leaving prison. The opera, which tells the story of a woman who disguised herself as a male prison guard to visit her husband from a political prison, was especially moving for the prisoners who sang it. And the staff of the prison was amazed by how the violence decreased among their population during this production. 2010 clinical study made on 22 children with severe asthma shown that with a weekly session of art therapy, the level of anxiety was lower and the quality of life much better. Actually, I could quote many different kinds of studies. Numerous studies are highlighting the benefits of observing a piece of art on blood pressure, for example. There are Again, countless experiments of this kind showing how music and art can be good for human beings, not only psychologically, but also physically. What the philosopher of the Antiquity and Middle Ages known is now proved by neuroscience. To be in harmony with our environment is an emergency. The pollution and its consequences are dramatically increasing, and we don't even know if it's not too late to act. I'm not saying that arts can solve any problem. However, living more in harmony with the world and the other beings on Earth is a goal that the practice of any kind of arts could help us to reach. How to get there? I think we need to change the way we consume the arts. Once again, our Western societies are based on economics, and art is also subject to it. Thus, while many permanent collections in museums are deserted, temporary exhibitions bring huge crowds with the help of a lot of publicity, advertisement, to make endless queues to cross them at a run, and audio guides screwed on the ears, distracting the attention we might pay to the works, and especially to what they provoke in us. In most museums, it's not possible to sit down to really look at the works of art. The rooms are often crowded and noisy. Some very famous art pieces are so crowded, it's impossible to really watch them. I remember when I visited for the first time the Sistine Chapel, several guards were screaming, "Avanti, avanti," to make the tourists move faster and leave the place to the others. And now with the trend of selfies, it's actually pretty funny to see many people turning their back to the art pieces. At the concert, people hurry to hear the musicians about whom the media has talked a lot, but whole sections of Western music remains in the shadow. For contemporary music, the volume is actually so loud that earplugs are offered to the audience. It sounds absurd, but this has been the norm for some time. Perhaps the main problem is that we have a consumer attitude and we are no longer aware of what the arts can bring us in terms of personal well-being, but also self-knowledge. However, contemplating a work of art, listening to a piece of music, of live music, attending a ballet or a play while truly listening to ourselves, being the keen observer of what is going on in our intimate being, going beyond personality changes everything. And this is certainly the true function of art, to offer a mirror, to know ourselves deeply and allow us to reconnect with our spirituality outside of any religious concept. Actually, I don't create anything by telling you that. This is a well-known since the antiquity. Plato wrote that music and arts are fundamental for self-knowledge. In the Middle Ages, music therapy is prescribed to cure melancholy. Watching beautiful art was supposed to help you to be a better human being, etc. The sacred images were even used as a way to communicate with God, but also with our true self. Several authors are talking about the art as meditation media. And I can just focus on this image that you can see. So this is Marguerite de Bourgogne. She's at her window, she's reading a book, and as you can see, at the window appears the Virgin Mary with baby Jesus. It's actually very in fashion at the end of the 15th century by the Devotio Moderna. So it's a new way to be connected with God. And because, I mean, the idea is to reach God inside ourselves by meditation, and not only by the communion, because the communion is not that often at the end of the Middle Ages. But as you can see here in this image, it's very obvious. So she's not looking at the window. She's not amazed by the Virgin Mary apparition, something miracle. It's not a miracle. She's reading. She's in kind of a meditation state. And then something happens. She's in communication or communion with the spirituality, with God. let's say. But concretely, how to do it? You have to learn how to observe and listen again. Listening to music, observing a piece of art while being fully present, observing the thoughts and possible emotions that arise. This whole process, such as observing ourselves to the most honestly as possible, should be taught from elementary school. How many of us put music in the background to create an atmosphere, but certainly not to listen it actively? Going through an exhibition while being more busy regarding the explanatory booklet than actually looking at the artwork. We all did that somehow. Most of us would feel uncomfortable looking at a portrait that also looks at us for 5 long minutes. How did we get to this point? Well, the debate is a bit different. Even though it's easy to make the parallel with self-knowledge, we simply don't want to get there because we know that somehow it will be uncomfortable. However, an awareness is getting urgent in order to find back our harmony with ourselves and our world. All we have to do is make some efforts to be present, to see when we think of something completely different, when we are at a concert, and to bring our attention nicely back to the present moment and the pure sensation of music. Perhaps if we all take the time to sit on the floor in front of works of art, to truly contemplate them and through a double movement observe ourselves, museum directors will understand that there needs to be more comfort, more silence, less movement in the exhibition halls. The active practice of art, music, dance, and theater should not be an option at school. It should be a part of our whole life. Of course, not all are gifted to the point of performing on stage or selling our artworks. But the benefit is so important to our physical and mental health. Why deprive ourselves of it? Our economic-obsessed society made the choice to put at the center of our education science. But it is a right choice for all the human beings and for the world. Sorry, is it the right choice? To give another example of myself, my theater lessons were way more important to help me find a job, for example, and to deal with colleagues than math. Sorry. Dance's class helps the body to stay healthy and makes us happy, while informatics is confining us on a chair in front of a screen. As it was demonstrated during the antiquity, art is a catharsis. It's especially obvious with theater. Many actors really like to play bad characters, people truly mean, even psychopaths. Because by playing these roles, you are expressing a very bad side of yourself, and so you can be relieved of it, you can get rid of it. I already told earlier that making any kind of art is good for human beings, and it has been proved by science. But I would like to emphasize again that watching art or listening music is very important and can be a true therapy as well. I propose a little demonstration at the end of my communication, but I already can tell that observing a piece of art can help us to observe carefully our true self, to be in a meditative state. A canvas or sculpture can be used as a mirror. Why do I feel uncomfortable in front of some art pieces and better in front of others? Is there a part of me expressing an emotion, and can I stand this emotion for a couple of minutes? Just observe it by being attentive to all the little details, like I'm in front of a painting. This meditation contemplation is actually a great help for self-knowledge. When you're not comfortable to meditate and find difficult to focus on yourself for a long time. There are always thoughts, always, but you can step back and observe them with kindness, or being aware that you're not always very kind to yourself. Putting the arts back at the center of human life and societies would mean putting ourselves back in front of our subtle being and at the same time opening ourselves to the world around us and to others in a gentle way, relieved from the impulses of violence by the catharsis of the arts. I would like to conclude this communication by making a little experiment with you, with all of you. Can we please spend 2 minutes watching this very famous painting, but not only watching and letting our brain making endless comments about it, or remind you that you would like a snack or a drink after this long talk, but trying to be present. I don't know if you're used to meditate, but you can just try to watch this painting and meantime to feel your body seated on a chair, your face. Maybe you would like to smile a bit. Actually, the face is very sensitive, like the top of the finger, so you can have feeling there. Your breathing, is there a change in it? Is it possible to be attentive to your breathing and to this painting at the same time? Is there some feeling appearing now, some emotions? Just let them pass through you. Watch them like you watch this painting. Be the spectator of yourself as you are the spectator of this painting. And after a while, maybe you will feel that you can be like Mona Lisa, quiet, open, smiling at the world, and more important, smiling at yourself. Following the question asked that I think La Gioconda is asking you, who are you? Yes, you who are watching me. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeda. Very, very sensible and deep type of talk you, as the others. But I think we are in quite the same topic, watching for queer ways, for limit, for the end of knowledge, possibilities of finding somewhere else more deeply and more sincere with ourselves and with the world, how to be more in peace and with the others and with ourselves, and how to know what is about. If you allowed me, Amalia, before you have some questions maybe from the others, I wish to, because you lived and worked in Italy, I had a personal experience in L'Aquila, near Rome, 100 kilometers from Rome, with an exhibition with Music of the Sphere. You see at the Palace of Culture. I had it before, 1 year before in Rome, and then in L'Aquila. And in L'Aquila comes an old lady, 80 years old lady, engineer by profession. And she has some particular gift. We speak about queer things, Sasha. She had a particular gift. With some person had strange gifts, strange possibilities. She was able. She is able. She's still alive, to read the energetic field of a person from childhood. She was born like that. She realized that, and she makes some practice, some course in Moscow, in Russia. Russians are famous for that. And after that, she opened a studio for making therapy with moving the hands at distance upon the bodies of her clients. And she had a young lady, 20-something years old lady, and from a couple of months, one day she came, and when she moved, she passed her hands upon her body, the belly, she saw with the hands, somehow, I didn't understand exactly, but anyway, I can understand the concept, a sphere, harmonical, geometrical, and colorful, and movement, but static somehow, with the same dimension at the level of the belly. And asked the young lady, excuse me, lady, are you expecting your period? And she said, yes, I am, but I had 2 or 3 days of, it happens to me. Okay, go and make a test. And the girl made a test, and she was pregnant. But come the 9 months, come to visit the old lady, and the old lady saw the same dimension and the same form, the same shape, which looks like, she showed me, looks like the Rosaccio of Basilica di Santa Maria di Colemaggio di L'Aquila, you know, the classical Roman or Gothic style vitralium. Okay, and it was exactly the same until the 9th month. She got birth to a child and was no more the sphere there. And she concluded in the same language that I use from the books and the concepts I manage. We came as a program, as an informational, intelligent, energetic quantum, and we mix with the genetic of the parents, definitely, and ancestors, but we came with a specific program, and this is energy. When we get in resonance with different situation, we like something, we don't like something, depends on education, depends on the family, of the society, of the city, of the level of consciousness that the person achieve in its life. And the 7 years are fundamental in the family, of course. So this is what I want to share with you about the sense of art. Art is for everybody, and art became everything that is well done, staying with other people, organizing things in uncertainty. As Sasha said, we live in the time, and this process will be more and more stronger. So this is my idea about what you present us, and I was enchanted also, as I was provoked and enchanted by Sasha presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah, it reminds me, I give a singing class for pregnant women, and it's very interesting because the fetus are just, everything is they are very aware of what's going on, and they even recognize some pieces that the parents sung during the pregnancy, and when the baby is born, it's just a kind of awareness. Oh, I know this music, and this is interesting. So yeah. Do we have questions?
Question or comments?
Well, yes, there's some questions here through YouTube. Babe, thank you very much for this formidable exposition. And also, well, at the beginning, they're asking, what do you mean by contemplation? They ask you if it's a state you must cultivate. Is that what you mean? And I can go on with more, but if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting question, actually. Maybe it's a barbarism, but in French, contemplation, it's it's a way to, it's not only watching. I make a difference between watching, because you can just watch, I mean, if you watch TV or if you watch something, it's not a deep state of watching. So I would say contemplation, it's a kind of it's a deep state of watching. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's even more efficient according to my theory, if you are in a kind of meditation state. So just be present and try to really watch the image, the art image, and you can see all the details, and you can feel if you are attracted by something. I'm pretty sure, I mean, many times when I ask to my patient and to my friends, what is attracting you on a portrait, usually it's the eyes. And it's very interesting with Mona Lisa, because actually you can watch her from one side and the other, and she's still watching you, and the eyes are following the audience. And I think this process, not invented by Leonardo da Vinci, but invented many years before, it's really a way to involve the audience, to watch the audience. And I mean, you have to imagine at this time there is no animated images, so it was something probably very impressive to the audience. And I really do believe it's a way to let the audience focus not only on the art piece but also on ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. It invites us to contemplate her, no? So the next one is, can transdisciplinarity or neurosciences help to recover the potential of art that rationalism annulled? And is it one or the other? Are they both? Well, you can.
Yeah, I do believe it's both, actually, because I think transdisciplinarity, it's really it's kind of the essence of arts, of course. I mean, we say arts on the plural, but I think even if you're an artist, even if you prefer music or arts or whatever, there is music everywhere and there is art everywhere. And as Christian showed, I think when you watch a painting, for example, you can see music by the proportion, by the mathematics. And when you're listening music, I mean, everybody who ever listen music could imagine something in the mind, could imagine a landscape or could imagine a scene or something. So yeah, I do believe this is the way for us to find to try to make a better society. And again, I really regret that art is kind of shut down right now.
Thank you. That was a great answer. And there's also another, well, a few comments regarding these activities. Literature for Liliana. She says that for her has always been a form of therapy, both to read it and to write it. There's other comments here. Magnifique présentation. Je vous prie par écrit les online links. Do the next slide. Okay, so you may share these with us if you want, or with somebody else. And yes, more about no, that was the very last one. So we invite people, if you want to ask these this presenter or previous ones, please feel free to do it. But yeah, well, the last one comment was about literature and how maybe it evokes something, no, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the same way with theater, with dance. I think in every kind of art, and I'm very bad at math, but I'm sure you can find arts in math. And as my colleague, Mr. Segedin, will probably will explain way better than I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you again. I was telling to thanks again Veleda for the story she offered us about the power of art, understood as somehow somebody will say in a traditional way as ability to perform when it's about a professional musician or a professional visual artist. And I think also that we have to keep that to eliminate this conflict somehow between the modern and contemporary and maybe of the future, which are very necessary and good conception about aesthetics and about art and the nature of art, all arts, and of all this practice, social practice, which are very good and necessary for the society, but also the specific arts in the traditional, again, way, which imply a lot of work, especially music, an instrument as piano. You have to work starting from the age of 5 or 6 to be good, to be real good, and to generate energy and emotion in front of an audience, and even to have a creating process to heal people through music or to visual. This has to stay together and to enlarge, and also go to the limit of all these concepts and put them together into harmony. In fact, all we speak is about energy and the harmony of energy. But as Veleda said, let's listen now. Let's invite now. First, I will present our professor engineer who accept, and we like to thank him for accepting this invitation to stay in this topic of art. PhD professor engineer Nicolae Eugen Seghedin is vice rector of the George Asaki Technical University of Iași. I make a short parenthesis. George Asaki, the patron, spiritual patron of Technical University, create a very transdisciplinary spirit. He goes in Italy for many years, learn Italian very well, wrote poetry, fell in love there for an Italian Roman lady from high society there, platonic, like Dante, the type of relation. He come back in Romania, in Moldavia at that time. Romania wasn't together, wasn't united, and create the technical studies university, but also the art university and the art museum. It was his vision. And I'm really glad for this, and I paint a portrait also. I was happy to paint a portrait for this George Asaki, a very huge, important. Every people, every nation has characters like this, people like this who generate history, and the history is living. So he is responsible for teaching and quality assurance as vice rector. Mechanical engineer, doctor in industrial engineering, doctor supervisor, director of the National Institute of Invention at the George Asaki University in Iași, holder of the courses Device Design, Basics of Technical Creation, Assisted Mechanical, Bioengineering, Ethics, and Academic Integrity. Member of ARACIS Council, is the controlling ministerial academic and expert of the European Patent Office, author of 18 books, 130 scientific papers, 7 patents, 28 research projects and grants. Please, Professor.
Thank you very much, Professor Ungureanu. It's a pleasure for me. I am very honored to be here. I am very honored to participate at this amazing scientific event. Hello, everyone. One second, please.
Okay.
It's okay, Professor Ungureanu. Do you see?
Yes. See. The others.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone from all over the planet, regardless of time, the day or season. In Romania, in Iași, it is -2 degrees Celsius. Yesterday it was -13 degrees. Thank you very much for the presentation. And it was said I am an engineer. That is, no one is perfect. I have to say that I feel very good among artists, because this is also because many times engineers behave like artists. However, it is known that engineering is the science and art of technical creation. I must admit that I was a little scared when I reviewed the title of I proposed for my lecture. Of course, such an approach is very general. In these conditions, I felt the need to find a common denominator of the idea of creativity in such different fields. And this common denominator, this invariant of creation, I consider to be combinatorial method, or in other words, it is combinatorics. Combinatorics transcends the fields, transcends the sciences, and often identifies with the idea of. It is very interesting that one moment. It is very interesting that combinatorics as a method of creating theology. The first man which established the foundations of a combinatorial method was the Catalan monk Ramon Lull, called in Latin Raimundus, or Raimundus Lullus, or Lullius. He was born in the island of Majorca. Ramon Lull was one of the most prominent European writers, philosophers, and scientists of 13th or 14th centuries. In 1265, he had a religious epiphany, and became a tertiary Franciscan. He wrote numerous religious treatises and made several missions in northern Africa. Around 1265, Lull designed a method based on something like a logical machine, which he first described in full in his Ars Magna Generalis Ultima, or Ars Brevis, meaning the ultimate general art, published in 1205. This was a method of combining religious and philosophical attributes selected from a number of lists. For example, Lull also used some relative or absolute predicates to represent reality, and in this slide, where the relative predicates can be seen. This magnum opus described a number of eccentric logical techniques, but the one of which Lull was most proud and which received the most attention was based on concentric discs or card, wood, or metal mounted on a central axis. Lull's idea was that each disc should contain a number of different words or symbols, which could be combined in different ways by rotating the discs independently. In this case, of the example showed in this slide, we can achieve 64 different sentences along the lines of "I love mice," "I hate cats," or "they eat frogs." There are 3 discs that can rotate independently and can generate various sentences. It seems that Lull made systems that contains dozens of discs, but we don't know exactly. The radical innovation Lull introduced in the realm of logic is in fact the construction and the use of a machine-made paper to combine elements of thinking, elements of language. With the help of connected geometrical figures following a precisely defined framework of rules, Lull tried to produce all the possible declarations of which the human mind could think. These declarations or set statements were nevertheless represented only by a series of signs, that is, chains of letters. Anyway, Lull was convinced that everything around us was the result of divine combinatorics. He is the first to try to prove this through mechanical systems, a kind of rudimentary computer. Lull's example was followed by other scholars, such as Giordano Bruno, and he tried to decompose and recompose the world based on a combinatorial method. Bruno's discs can be seen here. It is also a combinatorics that tries to describe the world. In 1666, at the age of 19, Leibniz wrote his Dissertatio de Arte Combinatoria. Since the Characteristica Universalis is diagrammatic and employs pictograms, according with this slide, the diagrams of Leibniz work warrant close study. On at least 2 occasions, Leibniz illustrated his philosophical reasoning with diagrams. One diagram, the frontispiece of his De Arte Combinatoria, represents the Aristotelian theory of how all material things are formed from combinations of the elements earth, water, air, and fire. These 4 elements make up the 4 corners of a diamond. Opposing pairs of these are joined by a bar labeled contraries: earth, air, fire, water. At the 4 corners of the superimposed square of the 4 qualities defined the elements. Each adjacent pair of these are joined by a bar labeled possible combination. The diagonals joining them are labeled impossible combination. Starting from the top, fire is formed from the combination or dryness and heat, air from wetness and heat, water from coolness and wetness, earth from coldness and dryness. One of the most spectacular appearances in this series of scholars passionate about combinatorics was Athanasius Kircher. According to some authors, he was named the last man who knew everything. Although Kircher's work was not mathematically based, he did develop various systems for generating and counting all combinations or a finite collection of objects based on the previous work of Ramon Lull. His methods and diagrams are discussed in Ars Magna Sciendi Sive Combinatoria. They include what may be the first recorded drawings or complete bipartite graphs extended to similar the technique used by Lull to visualize complete graphs. Kircher also employed combinatorics in his Arca Musarithmica, an aleatoric music composition device capable of producing millions of church hymns or by combining randomly selected musical phrases. You can see a diagram of the names of God in Oedipus Aegyptacus. And thus, everything was ready for the huge step forward in scientific knowledge, the rules of scientific research written by René Descartes. These rules published in the work Discours de la méthode. The fourth rule, we can see the first rule, it's never accept something as true unless it is obviously known as such. We know dobito ergo cogito, cogito ergo sum. The second rule, to divide each of the difficulties that would arise, etc., etc. And is very important for us. The fourth rule. The fourth rule is one that tells us that we must do all the iterations, all the possible combinations, so that we can be sure that we have gone through all the possible paths in finding out the scientific truth. This is in my opinion, the most important rule of René Descartes. Combinatorics is closely related to morphology. Morphology is used primarily in biology and linguistics. In biology, morphology refers to the science that studies the shape and structure of organisms at a microscopic or macroscopic or microscopic level. In linguistics, morphology means the part of the grammatical structure consisting of all the rules regarding the formation of words, their internal structure, and their form of changes in their various uses. Part of the grammar that deals with the study of these rules. One of the most important scientists who studied the role of combinatorics in linguistics was Abraham Morse. Morse studied electrical and acoustic engineering at the University of Grenoble while preparing a bachelor in science of nature. It seems like a lot, doesn't it? Morse pointed out that, for example, from a strictly syntactic point of view, a text is in fact a combination of letters, words, punctuation marks, blanks, numbers, ideographic symbols, etc., combinations that follow a series of rules. In Umberto Eco's novel, Foucault's Pendulum, one of Umberto Eco's heroes says that combinatorics is the music of thought. These heroes, these guys, are trying to crack the password of a computer, obviously an Olivetti computer. In this attempt, they combine various letters with the hope that they will find the right option. Of course, they fail. And at the end, exhausted from power, one of them says this memorable word. The science of combination is music of thought. Of course, he could not miss an iconic personality in technical creation, Alex Osborne. Alex Osborne, father of the brainstorming, said that most new ideas come by combination. Combination in arts. This is a dangerous attempt. Can we talk about combinatorics in art? Let's not forget that combinatorics is still a part of mathematics. However, combinatorics is an important part of art. This could be a topic for another Congress, for sure. We will consider only a few representations of the art of color combination after Eaton, Delacroix, and so on. Combinatorics in genetics. Combinatorics is the most spectacular in nature in the transmission of genetic information. The storage of hereditary information is done with the help of DNA molecules, which operate with an alphabet composed of 4 elementary symbols: adenine, cytosine, thymine, guanine, and which enter in the composition of the cell nucleus. With these elements is structured the genetic mark of each individual. The amount of information stored is the order of 200,000 bytes. The hereditary transmission thus corresponds to combinatorial possibility in order of 4 billion and 100,000 variants. Morphology in combinatorics in techniques. The question is, who is this guy with this no-so-friendly expression? He is the father of the modern morphological method used in the technique. Fritz Zwicky, who graduated from the Zurich Institute of Technology, a sort of MIT in Europe, was considered one of the greatest astrophysicists of the last century. He was also known in academic circles as one of the most non-conformist personalities at the time. This photo is a testimony. At Millikan's invitation, Zwicky worked at California Institute of Technology. He also worked as an astronomer at the Mount Wilson and Palomar Astronomical Observatories and was director of research at Aerojet Engineering Corporation, California. Zwicky studied supernovae and anticipated the discovery of neutron stars. Fritz Zwicky was the one who used the notion of matrix, not in a mathematical sense, but in a means of graphically encompassing of all combinations that can appear between the elements of a structure or of a morphology. He called the morphological matrix morphological box. Zwicky grew a reputation for his rash and unpredictable character, renewed for his highly hostile deposition and feats of physical strength. He is remembered as both a genius and a curmudgeon. One of his favorite insults was to refer to people he did not approve of as spherical bastards, because he explained that were bastards no matter which way one looked at them. His colleagues didn't appreciate his aggressive attitude, and mainly for that reason, despite Zwicky's major contributions to astronomy, he remains virtually unknown to the people. Zwicky was known to accost unfamiliar students in the astronomy building at the Caltech with the interrogation, "Who the hell are you?" Morphological matrices are some of the most advanced means tools, methods of structuring, systematization, classification, generation, combination, evaluation, and selection of information used in science and technology. The method of morphological matrices does constitute as a method of intellectual work aiming at streamlining the activities of scientific research, scientific and technical creation, conception, design. Zwicky used the morphological method to study various types of aircraft and rocket engines. He also used the morphological method in astronomy as a method in scientific research. Zwicky applied morphological analysis to astronomical studies and jet and rocket propulsion systems. As a problem structuring and problem solving technique, morphological analysis was designed for multidimensional, non-quantifiable problems where casual modeling and simulation to do function well or at all. We can see morphological matrix which is obtained from the combination of three formative examples. E1, E2, E3, type of fuel, B, type of motor, and C, how to increase the pushing power. We present some morphological matrices used in a technique. We can see the visual morphological matrix of unisense couplings, of the matrix of mechanisms for taking over the distance from the structure of machine tools, the morphological matrix of the relative tool part position to the turning operation. This morphology was designed by Werner Redeker, a German scientist. The morphological matrix of the connections between the elements of the machine tools. A very interesting, very artistic morphological matrix for hydraulic pumps with epicycloidal and hypocycloidal rotors, and some morphological matrix for clamping of the pieces in the manufacturing operations. And I structured, normally I'm an engineer and scientist, methodology for structuring and uses this morphological matrices as an application of combinatorics. In conclusion, in this paper, we presented the extent to which combinatorics is found in various fields of activity. I have presented, in fact, various examples in this regard, but more than that, I introduced people. What put these people together? Of course, the passion for combinatorics, but more than that, there were people looking for the absolute. Trying to obtain and study all possible combinations means, in fact, the search for the absolute. And there is something else. Some of them were weirder, more non-conformist guys, perhaps coincidentally, in his memoir, Salvador Dali considers himself a reincarnation of Ramon Llull. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Ungureanu, for inviting me at this Congress. It was a very exciting experiment for me. And I suppose that my future work will be about combinatorics in music, and the bibliography for this work. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Segedin. I should say, before having some question or some comments, if you allowed me, my feeling and the idea which comes to my mind listening all of you, I think we really are interested in quite the same thing, and we present without talk to each other in different fields somehow, but apparently, but we are interested in quite the same matter of going deeply and seeing relations between things in this complex and complicated reality of today. And in my opinion, in this new renaissance we live, very similar to the time we evoke everybody in his speech, including Sasha, somehow we are watching for how to communicate each other and to find similarities and possibilities of combination of putting together, of creating new mechanism, social and artistic and from any field. Thank you again. And if somebody want to say also something.
Thank you.
And if you have comments, Amalia?
Yes, we do have a comment here in YouTube, which says uniplurality is a beautiful and important concept. Thank you. And from Mar Thiriot, who is a philosopher and painter. So she's introducing, well, asking about that concept. And also we have another contribution here, which is creativity in sciences, in arts. What's the difference? If you can go and explain us more about this concept you said at the beginning, please.
Long topic, this.
It's a very difficult question. It's could be a title of the chapter of for another work. We can talk about the algorithmic way of things and the heuristic way for thinking, and we can say that in techniques we use methods and algorithm, and in arts we use intuition, imagination, but it's not true. We use and in science and in arts we use techniques, we use imagination, we use intuition, we use methods. It's very difficult to find a line for separate this field of activities and the attitude of a creator in science and in arts. There are a lot of things which unified arts and techniques, and there is a lot of things that separate the arts and the techniques. It's difficult to say something very clear, very strong about this problem.
Thank you very much. And yes, as you said, that will be another conference, maybe, no, if we get to talk about that one concept. There's another question here, which is if, well, the diagrams that you are showing have a lot of a very high degree of creativity. Is it the same in art?
No. It's very difficult to use this kind of diagrams in arts. I don't think so. These diagrams are used in science, in techniques, first of all.
if you allowed me to have my opinion again, I don't want to be the most talkative guy here, but I'm a moderator and I abuse because of that. I contradict you, Professor, and we had this type of contradiction each time we met as friends or in our conferences, and we have many. He come every vernissage we have with all students in fine arts we organize in the Palace of University in Iași. He always support us and come and speak, and he say always a technical somehow opinion, but a very poetical, and as he did now. We have a lot of techniques inside, even if we play, but finding new solutions and so on. But you evoke chromatology and the chromatic system of Delacroix and Goethe and Eaton and so on. There's pure optic and techniques there, and the technology of painting, by the way, or of sculpture, is all of it very scientific. The skill is a matter. Yes, it is a matter. You have to have it from birth if you practice a traditional art, but the skill of putting together ideas and putting together people, and it's a lot of technique. That not for nothing Leonardo said in the previous Renaissance, not the digital Renaissance, said painting is a science. I told you many times this is an obsession of mine. Painting is a true science. It's a science of finding the subject, as Valletta said. The expression of Mona Lisa is pure science. They were working that time very carefully and meditating a lot for where to put a character, in which kind of frame, which kind of many hands of colors they used to 5 years work for a painting. This is science. Or to play very well an instrument, or it's also science. Of course, the modern times we threw away from Dadaism and so on, from Impressionism, in fact, in all fields, not only in visual. We threw away rules and traditions, and we were very happy to start the beginning of everything. But we came back and we realized that, in fact, we generate new sciences, particular science, and new ethics, and so on. It's a lot of science, and you evoke once, and it's in relation with the question of you receive what's the difference between you evoke that the techniques discover one thing. Let's see, the cassette or the DVD is over. Also, it's dead. Nobody use, or CD, and everybody forgot. Nobody's using it. As in art, we still continue to use an ancient technique or an ancient style or so on. But it's the same. The mixing process is pure creativity, and I'm sure somebody will take inspiration from the cassette mechanism or to make something absolutely new. So it's constant visiting what is done before, and sometimes an apple comes from a tree and gives us a new perspective upon the same thing. So it's a lot of science in everywhere. I think it's a science of living, as to evoke again Sasha and Valletta. The science of how to live and how to meditate and how to find ourselves, our purpose and our direction, and at the individual level and also at the community level, because all we know, some communities in the West, maybe part of Europe or none, are more disposed to empathy and to organize creative society and everything we do, and some are not so. But things are really complicated, and anyway, it's a lot of science. This is my I love science as much I love art, and of course to rest in the spirit of transdisciplinarity as much as I love theology, thinking, which is absolutely necessary for the human being, and this is also vocational. You have to have talent somehow to make good theology and the contact with the divine, as Valletta evoked in her speech. putting us to watch middle-age type of meditation and experience, or as you evoke Ramon Llull, who had an idea to find a way to communicate with God, but practically made the science of combination, and everything that comes out was the new science, and we are together now because of the computers of the vision of Ramon Llull. So anywhere is some rivers. These rivers are very similar, science and art and mystic. As you evoke, Professor, we are looking for absolute. If we are healthy, as Dante said, we have the mind still healthy. Per quelli che hanno le menti ancora sane, it's natural to think what is our purpose and how to achieve it. And we look, we study, and we did it systematically. And this is science. If somebody has another opinion about that, but I think are very similar science. The sad thing is that we are very close, the modern, the contemporary people, University of Science or University of Theology or universities of and each specialization. We know already we have 10,000 academic and eating a lot of time, and we have no more time, and especially now they no longer let us to go to theater or to concert or to piazza to meet people and to make performance or to yeah, we can go in nature and experiment relation of a new form of art with the species we used to destroy. So we have to stop that, and it is a common effort and of creativity, but doing it scientifically.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ungureanu, for your intervention. Yes, the conclusion is combinatorics is everywhere. It's everywhere. Maybe the methods are different. It's okay.
But signal, Professor.
The sound.
I think it's cutting. I don't know if everybody is having the same experience. You got to be like a very like
Science, the techniques are used.
We can't hear you, Professor Nikolai. We are not able to hear what you are saying now.
The techniques are used in all fields of activities.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we missed it. No, somehow he had some trouble with his connection, and we still have three more questions. But I don't know if we can give him a couple minutes to join again this meeting. Try to think if you have any questions yourself or any comments, and we'll be right back with him. Sometimes this happens.
I invite him to enter again. Okay.
See if we're checking if he's waiting on the waiting room or if he's being able to get back to us.
Until he will come, I should say again regarding to Sasha and the others in Valletta, and of course the professor now with combinatorics and this theory in art school now. Of course we are in contact with everything happens, and we feel no more the peripheric. He's calling me. Type of reality that they express, the Eastern Europe schools last century had un pic, aspectul semnalul, domnul profesor, nu? Nu se mai vi s-a epuizat timpul. Puteți intra. Did he can get again in the link? He has time finished his time for the meeting. No, nu se mai auzea nimic și cred că Amalia, did you? Da.
Yeah, we are monitoring if there's any attempt to get into this room. So just let him know if he can click back.
Dacă vreți să spunem la revedere, dar numai dumneavoastră, da, pentru că nu se mai auzea nimic, aveți probleme cu... Nu se mai auzea. Da. Încercați să vă reconectați ca să ne salutăm, da? Și he's trying to reconnect now. Yeah. If you want to say everybody on this meeting to make a conclusion or somehow thought about this dialogue we have.
Right. Of course, we can wait for him to finish and give his closure. But I want to read. I mean, while we are waiting here, a couple of things that I can condense into these last. Opinion or question right here, because someone's are asking about aesthetics and spirituality. How would these combinatory relationships would produce? And the other one is it's not as a question, but that transdisciplinarity is showing. No, it's telling us that there is a continuum between the sciences and arts. No, and that's exactly what the Nicolescu and Morin are proposing in some of their in their thinking. So I think I can recover these for the discussion. I'll leave the microphone for you to say something, please.
So,
should I make it a question like, what do you think, or what can you tell about this? Sorry for this delay to the public and to everybody who is listening to this presentation. This is some contradictions that we have to these minutes or these quiet moments. So if Professor Nicolai is not coming back, I think we should have to end this table for the day. And I think, and let's see what this Christian is.
Professor said that it was written to him that 900 his time was over, and it didn't allow him to reconnect now. The Zoom link. So
okay, well, so that's a pity, and we are so sorry for not having the opportunity to hear what he has to say for his closure. So I think it's time for us to close. So in behalf of the 3rd Transdisciplinary International Congress and the National Institute of Anthropology, who is hosting and making this possible, and organizers group, I thank you all very much for your attention, for your participation, and we invite you to come back on Friday and join us for more wonderful presentations. Thank you very much, and have a good day in Mexico and evening night in Europe. So
Great.
goodbye. Ciao.
Great.
Bye.
Amalia, thank you very much for keeping
Thank
us.
you.
And see
Can,
you on
you can now
Friday.
open your microphones. Oh, Nikolai is back.
I am back. I
Go
am
ahead
back.
and give us your last impressions for your closure. And there was a last question I want to tell you. Well, they were asking about the continuum between sciences and arts, as Bazarov Nicolescu and Moran are proposing. No, what can you tell us about that? And relationships between art, aesthetics, spirituality. That would be it. Thank you very much.
Yes, I had a lot of discussions with Professor Ungureanu about these topics, and we have a lot of things to do together concerning the art, the science, and the arts put together in our lives. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for all. It was for me a very exciting experience, and I am honored to participate at this amazing, this huge event, scientific event. Thank you very much.
Again, if you allowed me to say, Professor, because you didn't evoke, you didn't want to evoke maybe the actions we did. A course for the polytechnical students at the chemistry faculty named Stimulation of Creativity. Each week of the second semester, we invite a personality from our city or even from outside to speak. Writers, directors for theater or movie, scientists, also philosophers, actors, and they, for 40 minutes, they express some experience and speak about the matter of creativity, what in fact we did also today. And we create also a gallery we named Alchemia in this faculty, and which is quite a large hall at the faculty, and with lights and so on, and a very good condition for exhibiting, a very beautiful space there. And we wait for to pass over the pandemic to reload the activities there, and to collaborate also, to get inspiration from the different faculties, 11, if I'm not wrong, Professor, no, 11 faculties of science, technological university, and together with the students of arts from theater, music, or visual arts in my university, and with the people from the city coming together and speaking about this dialogue, this constant dialogue, and this necessity of knowing what we do, what everybody does, and what expectation we have from arts, but also from science, and how can we express together these ideas. And it looks very similar to Sasha. For that, I said we spoke very similar. In fact, very quite identical expectation we had from our lives and from what we want to do, from what we expect from the others. And this is the beauty of time we live. And I think it's due to the huge quantity and possibility of communication. In fact, what we do now, and the huge quantity of books, electronic books or even paper books. We still love paper books, even if it's not good to cut trees. But it's beautiful to keep a book in the hands. But we can read it, of course, on a tablet, and to find connections and to speak with people everywhere in the world, and to find new ideas on social media or on sites or on different possibilities of meeting as we have now. We did today, and it's a pure joy that, and I hope I feel and I hope as you definitely that maybe the future will come on this way, the salvation, let's say. No, I don't want to make it tragic, but we think for the salvation, for climate change and social disorders we have in Europe and everywhere in the world with this globalization process and the wars and everything. The communication and this, again, Renaissance time we live, I think will give us reason for hope and solution for resolving the problems we have from maybe the most complex, definitely the most complex problems in history of what we know of civilization. If somebody want to say thought about this meeting and to to say hello and to see again on Friday to listen about visual art. If I make advertising for Friday a little bit,
So
we'll hear the stories of Margarita about similar somehow with Valletta, with music and pedagogical unconventional methods. I don't want to say more about. We have to listen on Friday, and about the advanced design, the contemporary design, in Alexandra's topic. And she's a researcher in design. She's working in design. She's not just teaching design. She's creating objects in design and in industrial way, film. And Radu Carnariu is a very creative artist well known in Romania, not only in Iași, the particular sense of humor and ways of making creation. And Adrian Stoleriu also will go to a pole that we touch, everybody of us, even Sasha and Valletta and myself too, because of this opening of transdisciplinary spirit about theology. Adrian will speak about contemporary sacred art, forms of sacred art, which are no more the classic form of God with as I present, from history. Of course, I make geometry and on top of, and no more classic stuff in this way. But theology is an option, also is a necessity, even for agnostics. For you have to be very strong mind and character to affront the possibility of non-existence of a creator, evoking even Blaise Pascal, going back to science, Professor Blaise Pascal argument in his time when he said, if we have the good mind, as Dante said, we have to push on this idea and to take it into consideration, because we don't have nothing to lose, but to be a little bit more moral and more ethical, and it's nothing to lose practically. And if it's wrong, it's not a problem, but gambling logic, very good. The gambling logic in life, in any situation. So the stories, everybody knows the story, that he has to tell to his contemporary fellows, friends, lovers of gambling. He put this matter to lift up their consciousness. So we again invite, if you want to say somebody else something. If not, we have to thank to our.
I think I received some other comments, and I can recover also from previous presentations, because I think we have left behind that connection with the indigenous and Mesoamerican thought in terms of this organization of creativity, science, art. When we get to study the organization of the cities, the paintings inside, like petroglyphs and murals in caves. We have that too in the Americas, not only in Europe. So most of the examples that we've seen before in your great presentations are showing us, of course, where you are, your places of origin, or what's your expertise. but it opens a great door for us, for many researchers here, not only in Mexico, in Brazil, in Ecuador, in many other places, in Peru. That's why we ask, you know, about these conceptions in different systems, mathematical systems, no, or even when we talk about the different cosmovisions of these different ancient civilizations. So this opens a lot because it's a new way of analyzing all of these researchers that we may have from other perspectives, no? So transdisciplinary studies for us is a great opportunity to widen our visions and to know a different perspective. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to use in your corpus some of these experiences, no? Like I said, many of the cities are organized very, very, very precisely designed from like fractals, like shaping the universe down on Earth, etc. And I can give you many, many, many examples also in art, abstract art, figurative art, etc. So that's what I can recover from some comments that many people said here in other questions and comments. Thank you.
I have already, if you allow me a few seconds, I was said not only for losing the possibility of being in October in Mexico City and to visit your beautiful country, as I know from books and documentaries and movies and so on, the huge city of Mexico City and so on. But I was expecting to see with specialists the sites of Maya culture and Inca culture there. Because of my formation, I still am, and I don't want to do it without getting in touch with some specialists from Mexico to see the structure, because are very geometrical, and I'm fascinated about that, are very energetical, in fact, are very full of information. So I wish a lot to, and Zueta Haidar, Julieta, told me that before pandemic, some names and put me in contact with some specialists, anthropologists, and evoke even some person who still patronize the ancient language and all these kind of things. So I don't want to take from internet or to buy a Mexican or Maya culture with the mosaics and sculptures and diagrams and so on. No, I wish to do it there. So I'm waiting for the meeting with this particular direction of ancient culture in Mexico and Latin America. And of course, we know, all of us, we know we have models there for anthropology and sociology and the way of living of some population, ancient population, which we can learn a lot. A form of art, but not only visual or theater or musical or something, but spiritual art and all, if I can call it like that, the way of living and to catch good things from there and express them in a contemporary manner, in a modern way, in our way. And it's a lot of things to learn on this type of experience. Thank you for telling us this. We had personally, I had emotion today and these days and tonight to get in touch with you. Somebody said, hey, you cannot make teaching and communication through internet and so on. It's not true. Even if I'm staying in my chair here and it's only the share, it's the same. Of course, again, should be and will be. Hope okay. Beautiful to go to the sites with archaeologists and anthropologists and to visit these fascinating places and to see how beautiful is organized. I watched some documentaries about Mexico City, apart from what I was seeing before, but I was so excited, and I still am so excited that I saw that it's this huge organism of the city is well functioning and with all its aspects. universities and shops and factories and all circulation and airport and everything and food. And I learned that you cannot eat Mexican food original, but only in Mexico. Otherwise, is fake, is similar, but not original. And of course, I love all kind of form of arts, including culinary arts, food art, and it's a beautiful art also, the art of food. And yes, it's extraordinary experience to mix together, and this is the sense of transdisciplinary, to put vocation and to put this for directions, for orientation of the human spirit together, and we wait for that. And till then, we will communicate on this way, which is absolutely great. And definitely you have classes. Sasha is teacher, Margarita has classes, Valeda too, and we all have this nostalgia for living live teaching, but we will manage it very well even this way, and this is great. And we also are fascinated to watch which kind of transformation, psychological and so on, happens with us and with the students, the pupils we manage through internet, and how to manage. Professor Segedin said at the beginning, and you know, sometimes an idea, a formula rests in he said at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020, we have to transform from stage actors to cinema actors, the teachers. Yeah, we were in front of, and we are controlling, managing the energies and of the students in front of us, and we are so familiar with all these proceedings that after we a majority had a strong shock, like what I will do now in front of a camera. But it's absolutely very well in this way, and the fact is we can do it, and we did it also tonight, and we will meet again on Friday.
Anyway, Professor Ungureanu, technology saved our students, saved our classes, saved our universities. Yes.
And we hope the technology of bioengineering will help also, will save our bodies and our societies, and we'll go again on street, and no more with the fear and so on. This is a good topic, how to manage the fear, and which types of fear we affront today, and different societies and different communities. We see now the Europe, and I don't know how was managed in Mexico, and since I didn't watch so much news about the pandemic to see the percentual and so on, but the reality show us that it was good to be careful and to stay and so on, not to say we will what's the word for when you have no more problem with the virus? I don't know. Immunity is the same for politicians. Immunity in front of virus, and so let's go on street, let's stay on bar and so on. But no, it wasn't functional, and we learn constantly. This is fascinating in life, and we have to deal, to evoke Sasha again, to play and with unpredictable, and to find a weird solution for resolving a situation, and to continue to play it, to make games, to make the life funny, and enjoy it. And for that, in fact, we accept this meeting and for having a new experience, and this is great, and I have to promote that. And this is a form of art, not only a science, also together. So if somebody else wants to say, Julieta, we have to thank you. I have to thank you as coordinator, and it was nice, and I was happy to do it and to communicate with you. A very cordial person, and we managed it very well. Very young spirit, and precise, and have a very good coordination, and with the posters and programs and everything. And we will be glad to watch also a literature poll and the other meetings. And Liana, who made the comment, is a friend of mine. He's also from Iași, but she's living in Texas, California. She's teaching at the University there, literature. And she said literature for her is a way of living well, and keeping healthy, and not only writing text and so on. So again, an extended function of art. And she will be in literature, I think in March. Is now Julieta, the literature pole of art, transdisciplinary pole of art. Yeah. Because I made this, I'm not a graphic artist, again, transdisciplinary. I'm not a web designer or graphic designer, but in a short time after classes and so on, I made these posters, and Sasha said, these are okay, good. Also Veleda said, Julieta, okay, and Florent Pasquier told me, yes, Christian, the posters are good. You have to do it for the all Congress. And I said, okay, I have the pattern of Corel Draw. I need only the photos and the names and the titles of communication, and I can do it very happy. And it is a joy. And I think this is the spirit you evoke, Sasha. I take it like that. And you, Professor, also. And this type of coming one step in front, each person, not only individual, to come close and to break the I don't know, the frozen walls we used to have because of specializations. Because of I'm an artist, and I cannot speak with the priest because the priest is in black dressed, and looks strange. So why not? Maybe he's a poet, and happens like that. And a lot of common points and aspirations we have, in fact. Yeah. So again, Julieta, thank you for this meeting. And if you tell me when will happen to have the translation, just to put it on our social networks, and it's first time for me. It's a very exotic thing to have a material, maybe to find it in I don't know, in Ghana language or something, or in in Korean or
Wow.
Chinese. And I'm curious how is written my name in Chinese, or yeah, and maybe to find comments and to make a copy paste and to translate there, and to find to discover the comments upon the topics we spoke, and to find the opinions of some people from.
Christian, the translation is in the night,
Yeah.
or tomorrow early.
Okay.
Or this night.
So quickly.
And the night in Mexico, but tomorrow in Europa, no?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we need to manage to close right now, to keep on the art of closing this round table from the distance, no? And I invite you to watch us on Friday with a second table under this same subject, transdisciplinary aspects of the arts, organized by Ciret France. Am I right? Did I say it right? And again, in behalf of the Third World Congress of Transdisciplinarity Studies and the National Institute of Anthropology, I thank you all for your time, for your good, nice, intention, and thank you for being here today, and for all the public, welcome back on Friday. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Right. Thank you.
See you Friday. Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Ay, qué calor tenga. Ay, se me olvidó. Ay, qué horror, tengo una loca. Hola, Julieta. No te oyes, Julieta.